Hello and welcome to another Advanced Skeleton video. This time we're gonna have a look at AdvancedSkeleton5. Let's start off with installation. Now after you download and unzip Advanced Skeleton, you'll have these files. Now to install Advanced Skeleton, all you gotta do is grab the install.mel file, drag and drop it into any of the 3D viewports. But before we do so, let's make sure we have the shelf selected, the one we want Advanced Skeleton to end up on. Now here I'm going to choose my existing Advanced Skeleton shelf, which already have Advanced Skeleton 4. So I'll also be showing you that Advanced Skeleton 4 and Advanced Skeleton 5 can be both installed. So let's go ahead, grab the install.mol file. As soon as I drop that file straight into a 3D viewport, the new icons appear on the shelf. Now, something to note about moving to Advanced Skeleton 5, this is a major version update. So every time we go up a whole number from Advanced Skeleton 3 to 4 and this time to 5, it means it is major changes and the rigs are not compatible between major versions. But you can have both Advanced Skeleton 4 and 5 installed on your system, and that allows you to keep maintaining your Advanced Skeleton 4 rigs and also start rigging characters with Advanced Skeleton 5. Okay, so let's have a closer look at some of the new things in this version. Now first thing we'll do is go ahead and dock in the interface. And then we'll have a look at the preparation section. There's now a new tool here called the Model Cleaner, which essentially cleans up the model, eliminating all unnecessary construction history, and it's doing so via exporting the surfaces as OBJs and bringing them back in. I'll demonstrate here quickly just by making a simple sphere. Now a requirement for the Model Cleaner is a top level group called Geo, so we'll just create that and it parents it automatically. Hit the clean button and it cleans the object. Next you would actually just save out this model, create a new scene to keep a separation between your model and your rig, and then go ahead and hit reference and browse through your model. So the model file gets referenced into the rig. Now another change in Advanced Skeleton 5 is that the documentation is now little links to help images placed next to all the buttons. And if you open a help image for one of the buttons here in the preparation step, there's more detailed information about the recommended workflow for referencing the model into the rig. Okay, let's move on to the body section and have a look what a Advanced Skeleton 5 fit skeleton looks like. Okay, we'll start out with importing a fit skeleton, and you'll see that the actual fit skeleton is now made up of joints instead of the locators and the geometry. Now one of the benefits with the joints is that they are much quicker if you want to do things like start plotting out your own joints as extra limbs, or you can easily grab a existing limb and just duplicate it to create any kind of multi-limbed creatures. The orientation of joints in a rig is quite important. One way you can visualize your orientation on your fit skeleton is just to turn on your joint axis for the joints. However, it's a little bit hard to get a good overview of all the orientations on the entire character, so there is the geometry option. Now with this it's just much easier to get a good overview of the orientation of all the joints. Now there's options in here to switch between various geometric shapes, as well as increase or decrease the gap between the individual box segments. That can be quite useful when you're dealing with placing this fit skeleton inside your geometry. And there's also the bones option, which displays a more of a anatomical skeleton, quite useful for visualizing the best placement of the joints within the geometry of your character. Now the geometry display option is also quite useful for setting the fat parameter for the joints. Now this allows you to define thickness at each of the joints, which is going to be very useful for getting good deformation if you're using the Advanced Skeleton features such as the skin cage. Next we're going to take a look at fit mode. Now fit mode is this button here. As soon as you hit it, you're going to enter fit mode. And you can tell that you're in this mode from this heads up display. If you hit the button again, you've exited fit mode. Now first let's see what happens when we're not in fit mode if you were to grab and move a joint. So as soon as I move this, you can see that the orientation of this joint is no longer set to aiming down to its child. Now, having X aiming down to its child orientation is something that you're gonna want for most of the joints on your rig. And instead of manually going through and setting up this orientation, you can use fit mode. So as soon as I hit fit mode, you can see that this will update and aim down to its child. Now, if we try to move the same joint again, this time we're in fit mode, first thing you'll notice is as soon as I select the joint, the local orientation axis for the parent joint has been switched on. This is to show you that it will change if you are moving your current joint. So if I move this joint, as soon as I let go of the mouse button, the parent joint's orientation has been updated. Now, something else that happens in fit mode is that if you are to adjust one of the fat parameters, the neighboring joint's fat parameters will also change to create a smooth transition between the thickness of the joints. Now, if you don't want the fit mode to be automatically running and adjusting the joints, you can turn off the fit mode. And still, if you do want the update to do one run through and check all the X down orientations, you can hit the update now button, which essentially does what fit mode does, but it runs only once as you hit the button. Another option here I'd like to mention is the lock middle option. Now, this locks all the joints that have been placed in the center, and if you select one of these, such as the head joint, you'll see that the translate Z is locked, and so is the rotate X and Y. So you can freely use the transform tools as far as they will take you, and there is no chance that this can accidentally move any of the center joints off to the side. Alright, next I'll show you there's two ways to tag joints to specify what it is that you want to build. The first things are joint labels. You can see here that there's a label here. This one is labeled shoulder and this one's labeled hand. So this is going to build a IK arm. This is the section where you can see all the labels. And the help image shows you which combination of labels builds which IK systems. And the way to use it is you select the joints you want to apply the label, choose your label here, and hit add or remove label. Now, there's also another way to tag joints depending on what you want to build, and that's with attributes. Now, if we select the shoulder, you will see that it already has a attribute applied, which is twist joints. Now, if we open the help image for the attribute section, we get a complete list of all the attributes that can be applied and what they will build. And another thing is that the fit skeleton section now contains a limbs section, which allows you to merge in limb parts. And by default, a foot, hand, and a tail is provided that you can bring in here. Let's, for example, merge in a tail to this character. And if we are to merge in a foot as well, now you'll see that it'll detect that there's already a foot, and you get the option of merging in a second foot or replace the existing. So we'll just go ahead and replace it. And you'll see that the foot fit skeleton template limb is a more detailed foot that includes all the toes rather than the standard default biped one. Alright, let's go ahead and build this creature. And we'll create some polygon geo stand-ins. And we'll just test out some of the controllers. Now, one thing that's new in AdvancedSkeleton5 is the in-between, which essentially gives you this effect where the rotation of one controller gets divided up to multiple joints, and thereby giving you a really smooth distributed rotations. Now this is great for spreading out the rotation over a larger area, however it is currently not compatible with the old hip swinger, so the default biped do not have a hip swinger. If you do want the hip swinger back, you can just turn off in between for the first segment of the spine, so we'll just go ahead and show you how to do that. We'll switch back to the fit skeleton, turn off our polyboxes, select the root, and you can see here that in between joints attribute has been added, so we'll just choose the in between joints, remove that, and rebuild the rig. And we now have the hip swinger, and we still have the in between effect on the other spine joints. Now for the finger curl, this is, as before, a driving system, but the driving system tools have been moved out of the body section and is now found under the pose section. Now the reason for this is that our driving system, just as corrective shapes, does apply to both the body and the face, and have therefore been placed in its own section called pose. Okay. Now for the rest of the body section, it's very similar to the AdvancedSkeleton 4, so we'll not go into anything in details here. In the face there's a fair few changes. The biggest change is that there is now an extra section called the step builder. If you are building a face setup and you are encountering an error, then go back and instead of running the build, run all the individual steps. There's also a new kind of control called the rubber control for cartoony faces. Also, there's the optimize section, which you will use as you come to the completion of your rig. You can run through these various steps to optimize the rig. There's also a publish section, and the help image here describes in more detail the workflow and the function of the publish feature. And as before, in the about section, there are tools to automatically check if there are new updates available and to download and install these. And the current version button, you can always right click and roll between different versions. Alright, that's it for this time. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.